At my baby shower, my mother-in-law handed me a dog bowl and said, "Since you can't give us a baby, this suits you." I smiled, raised my glass, and said, "Funny, Helen, I brought something, too. Something that might change how you see your precious son forever." The room went silent. I can still vividly recall the first time I ever took a pregnancy test, the nervous energy, the swarm of butterflies in my stomach, the way my husband Mark paced just outside the bathroom door, his voice muffled as he called out, "Well, anything?" Every 28 days, like clockwork, became a recurring loop of soaring hope and crushing despair that slowly, methodically chipped away at my spirit. That was 5 years ago. 5 long years of negative tests, all lined up like a grim row of little plastic tombstones for dreams that were never even given a chance to breathe. Today marks the 61st test. I've counted every single one, keeping them tucked away in an old shoebox at the very back of my closet, a secret graveyard where Mark won't stumble upon them. He stopped waiting anxiously outside the bathroom door somewhere around test number 37. It's negative. I announced the word to our quiet, empty bedroom. Mark had already left for work, another early start to avoid our monthly morning ritual of disappointment. The faint, sharp slam of a cabinet door from downstairs told me he was still in the house, probably hiding out in the kitchen, nursing a coffee. I let the test fall from my fingers into the trash can and washed my hands, scrubbing them as if I could somehow rinse away the bitter feeling of failure that clung to me. When I walked into the kitchen, Mark barely glanced up from his phone and the coffee cup cradled in his hands. "No luck?" he asked. A question that was more of a formality. We both already knew the answer. "Not this month," I replied, my voice sounding distant and hollow even to my own ears as I reached for a mug. There's a suffocating heaviness that hangs in the air between us now, a weight that simply wasn't there in the beginning, back when every negative result was met with a comforting, "We'll try again next month," and long, reassuring hugs. Now, there's just this tense silence and the careful avoidance of each other's eyes. "Mom called," Mark said, abruptly changing the subject. "They want us to come over for dinner on Sunday." My stomach immediately tightened into a knot. Helen, my mother-in-law, with her barbed remarks always coated in a thin veneer of concern. "Do we have to go?" I sighed. "I have that big presentation to get ready for on Monday." "Chloe," Mark said, his voice tinged with that familiar blend of exhaustion and impatience. "It's just one dinner. She misses us." What he really meant, of course, was that she missed him. Helen tolerates me. I am the woman who married her perfect son and who, month after agonizing month, fails to produce the grandchild she so desperately covets. "Fine," I conceded, mostly because it was just easier than starting a fight I knew I couldn't win. "But I'm leaving by 8 o'clock. Sunday arrived with a depressing, soul-crushing inevitability. Helen's sprawling suburban ranch-style house looked identical to every other house on Willow Creek Lane, with the single exception of the collection of porcelain angels she displayed in her garden, each one like a silent, judging sentinel. The rich aroma of her signature lasagna hit me the moment we stepped through the front door. She was, I had to admit, a flawless cook. There they are. Helen's voice echoed from the direction of the kitchen. She emerged, wiping her hands on an immaculate dish towel, and immediately wrapped Mark in a tight embrace. He was always first, always. Only then did she turn to me, her smile practiced and thin. "Chloe, sweetie, you look so tired. Are you getting enough sleep?" It was her standard greeting. Translation: "You look terrible. No wonder my son isn't happy." "I'm fine, Helen. Just been busy with work," I said, handing her the bottle of expensive red wine we'd brought, which she accepted with a curt, almost dismissive nod. "Well, come in, come in. Your cousin Jessica just had her baby, Mark. The pictures are just adorable. I put them right on the fridge for you to see." The rest of the evening unfolded with a predictable, almost scripted precision. Helen's formal dining room, with its heavy cherry wood furniture and a china cabinet filled with wedding gifts she never actually used, felt utterly suffocating. Throughout the entire meal, she peppered the conversation with updates about every single person in her social circle who had recently reproduced. And Diane's expecting twins. Can you even imagine? She's going to have her hands full, Helen laughed as she served a slice of apple pie. Jessica says the delivery was actually easier than she expected. Only 6 hours of labor. She's already talking about having another one. I focused all my attention on my dessert, meticulously counting the thin slices of apple to keep myself from screaming. Mark, as usual, said nothing. He just nodded and smiled, a passive spectator. He never once defended me, never tried to steer the conversation in a different direction. Sometimes I honestly wondered if a part of him enjoyed watching me squirm under his mother's relentless scrutiny. "So, when's it going to be your turn, Chloe?" Helen finally asked, her voice dripping with a false, syrupy sweetness. Mark would make such a wonderful father. And there it was, the question, the one she asked every single time we came to visit, without fail. "We're working on it, Helen," I replied, the practiced response rolling off my tongue automatically. "Well, you shouldn't wait too long. The clock is ticking, you know. We women have a finite window." She tapped her gold wristwatch for dramatic emphasis. On the long drive home, Mark and I sat in a thick, uncomfortable silence until I just couldn't bear it anymore. "You could have said something," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "What do you want me to say, Chloe? You know how she is." "That's not an excuse," I snapped, my voice finally cracking. "She treats me like I'm defective, and you just sit there and let her." Mark's knuckles turned white as he gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Look, I'm caught in the middle here. She's my mother," he'd say, "and I'm your wife, I'd think." The words hung between us, heavy and unspoken, a testament to all the things we no longer said to each other. The next morning, I found myself just staring at the calendar on my desk at work. My period was 4 days late, but I was terrified to even let a flicker of hope in. I'd been late before, many times, only to be utterly crushed by the inevitable disappointment. My co-worker, Sarah, paused by my cubicle, a fresh coffee in her hand. "You okay? You've been staring at that calendar like it holds the winning lottery numbers." I forced a weak smile. "Just tracking a project deadline." Later that week, during my annual physical exam, Dr. Evans reviewed my chart with the same gentle professional warmth she's shown me for years. "Everything looks good, Chloe. Your blood work, all your tests, they're all perfectly normal." "All normal?" I repeated, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. "Even my hormone levels, my fertility markers?" She glanced up from her papers, her expression softening with understanding. "Yes, everything in your results indicates a completely normal reproductive function. Are you and Mark still trying to conceive?" The question, as simple as it was, hit me like a physical blow. 5 years, I whispered, the number feeling heavier than ever. Dr. Evans' brow furrowed in thought. "Have you both been tested? Sometimes male factor infertility can play a role." "Mark refuses," I interrupted, the words tumbling out. "He says it's probably me, that his family has never had any issues with fertility." She handed me a copy of my medical records, pointing to specific test results, lines of black and white data. "There is absolutely nothing in your entire workup that would explain this difficulty in conceiving. Nothing at all." I just stared at the paper in my hands. This concrete, scientific evidence that contradicted everything I had come to believe about myself. For 5 long years, I had carried the entire weight of our failure. For 5 years, Helen's cutting remarks had sliced deeper and deeper, because on some level, I believed them. Walking numbly to my car, clutching the folder with my test results, something inside me began to shift. A tiny, defiant spark of anger began to ignite where only shame had lived for so long. 3 days later, a pale pink envelope arrived in our mailbox, addressed only to me. Inside, I found an invitation written in Helen's unmistakable, ornate, flowing script. You're invited to a special gathering to celebrate new beginnings. The date, time, and her address were listed below, along with a small, handwritten note. No need to RSVP. Just come as you are. I traced the embossed floral border with my fingertip, a growing confusion giving way to a cold, creeping suspicion. Helen had never, not once, thrown me a party. Why now? The answer came when I turned the invitation over and saw 2 words printed in a smaller, delicate font: baby shower. I held the invitation between my trembling fingers, the words baby shower mocking me as all the pieces clicked horribly into place. This wasn't a celebration. It was an ambush, a public humiliation meticulously orchestrated by Helen, designed to put my 5 years of failure on display for everyone to witness. "Mark," I called out later that evening, my voice surprisingly steady, "we need to talk." He was sprawled on the couch, mindlessly scrolling through his phone, the physical distance between us a perfect mirror of our emotional one. "About what?" I held out the invitation. "Your mother is throwing me a baby shower." His eyes widened for a brief moment before his expression became carefully unreadable. Maybe she's just trying to be optimistic." "Optimistic?" I repeated, the word sharp and laced with disbelief. "This is cruel, Mark, and you know it. 5 years. 5 years of negative tests, and not once has your mother shown me a single ounce of genuine support. And now this?" He sighed, running a frustrated hand through his hair. "What do you want me to do, Chloe? I want you to come with me to see Dr. Davies next week. She's the fertility specialist I mentioned. We need to go as a couple." "I can't next week," he said quickly. "The Peterson account is blowing up. The week after, then. Chloe, work is insane right now. The merger is... It's always something, isn't it?" The realization dawned on me slowly like a cold, bleak sunrise. "You don't want to go." His gaze dropped to the floor. "I just don't see the point. We've been through this. You've had tests, and they're normal," I interjected, pulling the folder out of my purse. "Completely normal." Dr. Evans confirmed it last week. Mark's face went pale as I spread the papers out on the coffee table between us. "These things are complicated," he mumbled, "which is exactly why we need to see a specialist. Together, both of us." After 2 hours of the same circular, exhausting argument, he reluctantly agreed to an appointment 3 weeks out. Just long enough, I noted, for it to potentially conflict with a business conference in Denver he'd mentioned. The pattern was so blindingly clear now that I was actually looking for it. The morning of the appointment arrived, and with it, the predictable text message. "Emergency at work. Can't make appointment. Let's reschedule." I didn't even bother to respond. Instead, I drove alone to the modern glass building that housed Dr. Davies' practice. The waiting room was filled with couples, their shared, hopeful energy, making my solitude feel even more stark and pronounced. "Mrs. Peterson?" the nurse called, leading me to a comfortable office rather than a cold exam room. Dr. Davies was a woman in her 50s with kind, intelligent eyes and a direct manner that I appreciated immediately. "Your husband couldn't make it?" she asked, glancing at the empty chair beside me. "Work emergency," I replied, the lie sounding flimsy and hollow. She nodded, already reviewing my file. "I see you've been trying to conceive for 5 years with no success, despite consistently normal test results." She looked up, her gaze meeting mine. "Mrs. Peterson." "Chloe? Has your husband been tested?" "No," the word hung in the air between us. "He's resistant to the idea." Dr. Davies leaned forward slightly. "In my 20 years of practice, I've often found that when a partner consistently avoids testing, it's sometimes because they already know, or at least strongly suspect, what the results will be." Her words crystallized the vague, nebulous suspicions that I had been carrying for months. "You think Mark knows he's infertile?" "I'm not making any diagnoses without tests," she clarified gently. "But in cases like yours, a healthy woman, no conception after years of trying, and a partner who refuses evaluation, It is a distinct possibility worth considering. I left her office that day with two things: a DNA testing kit and a radically new perspective on my marriage. Mark's conference in Denver the following week provided the perfect, albeit unsettling, opportunity. The night before he left, I watched him pack with his usual methodical precision, taking careful note of how he placed his electric toothbrush into its travel case. 3 days in Denver, he said, zipping his suitcase shut. I'll call you when I land. The moment he was gone, I walked into our shared bathroom and stared at his regular toothbrush, still sitting in its holder by the sink. The collection process was far simpler than I had imagined. A quick swab against the bristles, sealed carefully into the sterile container provided by Dr. Davies' office. I drove to the clinic immediately, handing over the small sample with a nauseating mixture of steely determination and overwhelming guilt. Results typically take 3 to 5 business days, the technician informed me politely. Those 5 days stretched into an eternity. I went through the motions of my life on autopilot, working, cooking, forcing a smile at the appropriate times during our nightly video calls, all while Mark remained blissfully oblivious in his Denver hotel room. The call came while I was having lunch with Sarah. It was Dr. Davies herself, her voice gentle but direct. Chloe, we have your husband's results. I think it would be best if you came in to discuss them. The office felt smaller this time, the air heavier. Dr. Davies didn't sugarcoat the news. The sample shows complete azoospermia. That means there is no sperm production whatsoever. This isn't a temporary condition or a low-count situation. Based on these results, your husband is completely and permanently infertile. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Despite all my suspicions, hearing the definitive confirmation knocked the breath right out of my lungs. This type of infertility is often congenital, she continued softly. It's likely something he's known about since adolescence or early adulthood. He knew, I whispered, the words catching in my throat. All this time, he knew. Dr. Davies started talking about resources, options, support groups, but her words just flowed around me like water around a stone. 5 years of blame, 5 years of shame, 5 years of Helen's cutting remarks and Mark's suffocating silence, 5 years of believing my own body had failed us. I drove home in a complete trance, the awful truth expanding inside me, filling all the hollow spaces with a cold, clarifying rage. Our house, once a symbol of our future and the family we were supposed to build, now felt like a monument to his lies. In a daze, I wandered into Mark's home office, searching for, what? More confirmation? More evidence? In the bottom drawer of his mahogany desk, tucked beneath a stack of old files, I found it, a bottle of prenatal vitamins. But they weren't mine. The bottle was brand new, still sealed, with a handwritten note taped to the cap in Helen's familiar looping script. For when she finally accepts reality and you can move forward with someone who can actually give you children. Reality crashed over me like a tidal wave. It wasn't just that Mark knew about his infertility. He and his mother had been actively planning for a future without me. Those vitamins weren't for me. They were for my replacement, for whoever would come along after I was finally discarded for failing at a task that was never possible to begin with. I sank to the floor, the bottle of vitamins clutched in my hand as the final horrifying pieces of the puzzle locked into place. The baby shower invitation suddenly made perfect, terrible sense. It was designed to be my public breaking point, the final act in a play designed to end our marriage entirely on Helen's terms. But Helen didn't know what I knew now, and Mark had no idea that I knew either. For the first time in 5 years, I felt a strange, unfamiliar surge of power. The truth had finally been unearthed, and with it, a determination I thought had withered and died through years of relentless disappointment. I placed the vitamins back exactly where I had found them and quietly closed the drawer. Then I picked up my phone and made another appointment, not with Dr. Davies this time, but with another kind of specialist altogether, one who could help me move forward, but on my own terms. The specialist I made an appointment with was Dr. Anya Sharma, who specialized in reproductive options for complex situations. She listened with rapt attention as I laid out the entire story, the test results, the prenatal vitamins, the years of deception. "So, you haven't confronted your husband yet?" she asked, her expression a mix of professional and compassionate. "Not yet," I replied. "I wanted to understand all my options first." Dr. Sharma carefully outlined the various paths forward: divorce, counseling, donor sperm. Each possibility branched out before me like a series of roads on a map. By the time I left her office, I had a concrete plan and something I hadn't felt in years: agency. Mark returned from Denver bearing a small gift, a ceramic mug with the city's skyline painted on it. A peace offering, perhaps, or maybe just a token of his guilt. He placed it on the kitchen counter, a miniature monument to our fractured marriage sitting between us. "How was your week?" he asked, loosening his tie. I took a deep, steadying breath. Illuminating. Something in my tone must have alerted him, because his movement slowed, his eyes finally truly focusing on me. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I know, Mark," I said, my voice eerily calm, belying the storm raging inside me. "I know you're infertile, and I know you've always known." The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, then closed it, his hand gripping the edge of the counter for support. "How? Does it matter how? What matters is that you let me believe it was my fault for 5 years. Chloe, I can explain." "Please do," I said, crossing my arms, steeling myself. "Explain why you stood by and watched me cry every single month. Explain why you let your mother torment me over something that could never, ever happen." He sank into a kitchen chair, suddenly looking small and defeated. "I was diagnosed when I was 16. A complication from a childhood illness, mumps, they think. My mom took me to all these specialists, but the prognosis never changed." His voice cracked. "Do you have any idea what it's like to be told at 16 that you'll never have biological children?" Despite everything, a flicker of sympathy stirred within me. It must have been devastating, but that doesn't explain why you hid it from me when we got serious, when we decided to get married. "I was going to tell you," he insisted, tears welling in his eyes. "But then Mom said—" "Helen," I interrupted, the name tasting like poison on my tongue. "Of course. She said if you really loved me, it wouldn't matter, that we could adopt or something later on. But she also said—" He hesitated, his gaze falling. "Said what, Mark?" "That if you knew before we were married, you might leave me. That a lot of women want biological children, and that I might lose my only chance at happiness." A single tear slid down his cheek. She said that after we were married for a while, if children became that important, we could just say we discovered the issue together, that it would be easier that way. The calculated cruelty of it all stole my breath. And the monthly pregnancy tests, watching me fall apart over and over again, was that easier? I didn't know how to tell you after so much time had passed. And Mom said, "Stop telling me what Helen said." My palm slammed against the counter, the sound sharp and explosive in our silent kitchen. "You're a grown man, Mark. You made these choices. You chose to lie to me every single day for years." His shoulders slumped in defeat. "You're right. I was a coward. And the prenatal vitamins in your desk, the note from your mother?" His head snapped up, a look of genuine shock crossing his features. "What vitamins? What note?" For a split second, I wondered if he was actually telling the truth, but the confusion in his eyes seemed too genuine to be an act. "In your desk drawer? Prenatal vitamins. With a note from Helen about me accepting reality so you could move on with someone who could give you children. Chloe, I swear, I didn't know anything about that. Mom must have put them there when she visited last month. I wouldn't what, Mark? Lie to me? Conspire with your mother? Because you've been doing exactly that for our entire relationship." We talked for hours, the conversation a torrent of accusations and apologies, punctuated by freely flowing tears. Dawn was breaking over our quiet neighborhood as Mark finally confessed the full extent of Helen's manipulation. How she had convinced him I would want the baby shower as a way to help me move on. How she had been subtly introducing him to fertile young women from her church group at family gatherings, positioning them near him while I was conveniently occupied elsewhere. "I never wanted anyone else," he whispered, his voice raw. "Just you. I always thought that eventually we'd adopt or something, but you never discussed it with me. You never gave me the chance to make an informed choice about my own life." He reached for my hand across the table. I let him take it, but I felt nothing but a dull, hollow ache where love used to reside. "We can fix this," he pleaded. "Counseling, a fresh start. I'll tell Mom to back off permanently." I gently withdrew my hand. "I've made an appointment with a fertility clinic." Confusion clouded his expression. "But I just told you." "Not for us," I said softly. "For me." The words hung in the air between us, their implications crystal clear. "I still want children, Mark. Children that should have been ours if you had only been honest from the start. You're leaving me," he stated. It wasn't a question. "I haven't decided yet," I said truthfully, "but I'm moving forward, with or without you." The following weeks passed in a strange, surreal limbo. Mark moved into the guest room. He attended a single therapy session with me before claiming that work conflicts were preventing him from continuing. Some things, it seemed, would never change. Meanwhile, in secret, I began the IVF process. Dr. Sharma helped me select a donor with features similar to Mark's, a final, quiet mercy that I wasn't entirely sure he deserved. Each appointment felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself. Each injection was a step toward the future that had been stolen from me. Helen began calling relentlessly. Mark must have told her something, though I didn't know what. I let her messages pile up unanswered. It was a small but deeply satisfying act of defiance. 3 weeks before the scheduled baby shower, I found myself sitting on the bathroom floor at 5 a.m, staring at the pregnancy test in my trembling hands. 2 pink lines, clear and undeniable, positive. After 5 long years of stark white negatives, the site was so foreign that I took 3 more tests just to be sure, all positive. A hysterical laugh bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, mingling with tears that seemed endless. I was pregnant, alone and pregnant and terrified and completely, utterly elated all at once. I hid the positive tests in my bedside drawer beneath a stack of books, not out of shame, but because this joy, this secret was mine and mine alone for now. This secret was the polar opposite of Mark's. It wasn't a secret that harmed, it was one that healed. It wasn't a lie, but a new truth, slowly taking shape inside me. The baby shower invitation still sat on my dresser. It was no longer a threat, but an opportunity. Helen thought this party would be my breaking point, the public humiliation that would finally shatter me into a million pieces. She had absolutely no idea what was coming. I placed a protective hand over my still flat stomach. For the first time in years, I felt something that resembled peace. Whatever happened at that shower, I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't be facing it alone. The 3 weeks leading up to Helen's baby shower passed in a hazy blur of morning sickness and strategic planning. I told no one about the pregnancy, not even my sister Mia, who called twice to ask if I was really going to attend whatever weird, passive-aggressive thing Helen is planning. "Trust me," was all I would say. At home, Mark and I orbited each other like distant cold planets, sharing a physical space but rarely connecting. He made clumsy, awkward attempts at reconciliation, bringing home takeout from my favorite Thai restaurant, suggesting weekend getaways to the coast. But it felt as if he was reading from a script written by someone who didn't know me at all. And maybe he never did. The morning of the shower arrived, crisp and brilliantly sunny, a cruel mockery of the storm brewing inside me. I stood before my closet and selected a fitted sapphire blue dress that subtly accentuated my still flat stomach. My hair fell in loose waves, my makeup applied with careful, deliberate precision. If this was going to be a showdown, I wanted to look my best. Mark hovered in the bedroom doorway, his expression a mixture of anxiety and confusion. "Are you sure you want to go? We could just say you're sick." I secured the clasp on a simple pearl necklace, a gift from my own mother. "I've been sick for 5 years, Mark. Today I'm feeling much better." He didn't understand, of course. How could he? In my purse, the envelope containing Mark's DNA test results and a copy of my first ultrasound image rested like a loaded weapon. Evidence, truth, power. Helen Street was lined with cars when we arrived, far more than I had expected. I recognized vehicles belonging to Mark's cousins, several of Helen's friends from church, and even some of our mutual acquaintances. This wasn't an intimate gathering. It was a public spectacle. "Quite a turnout," I murmured as Mark helped me from the car. His complexion had gone pale. "Mom said it would just be family. Your mother says a lot of things." The front door swung open before we even reached the porch. Helen stood there, resplendent in a pastel floral dress, her smile as sharp as a shard of glass. "There you are. Everyone's waiting." The living room had been transformed. There were pink and blue streamers, a large banner that read, "New Beginnings," and a long table piled high with brightly wrapped gifts. About 20 people turned to stare as we entered, their expressions a discomfiting blend of curiosity and pity. I recognized the pity immediately. They knew. All of these people had been invited specifically because they knew about my supposed failure as a woman. Helen's best friend Barbara approached first, enveloping me in a hug with the exaggerated gentleness one might use with a terminally ill patient. "Chloe, you're so brave for coming," she whispered theatrically. I gently extricated myself from her grip, my smile placid. "It's just a party, Barbara." Mark's cousin, Emily, caught my eye from across the room and offered me a small, sympathetic grimace. At least one person here seemed to grasp the absurdity of Helen's charade. "Let's get everyone settled," Helen announced, her voice booming as she ushered people toward the chairs she had arranged in a semicircle. "I have a little presentation to start things off." I took a seat in what was clearly intended to be the position of honor, a single decorated chair at the front, facing everyone else. Mark sat beside me, nervously fidgeting with his wedding band. The room fell silent as Helen took her place at the center, clasping her hands before her like a benevolent queen addressing her loyal subjects. "Thank you all for coming today to support Chloe and Mark during this transitional time." Helen's voice dripped with a manufactured compassion that made my skin crawl. As most of you know, they've been trying to start a family for several years now. Without success, the collective gaze of the room weighed on me like a physical presence. I held my smile, one hand resting lightly on the purse in my lap. "Sometimes," Helen continued, her eyes finding mine, "we just need to accept that a higher power has other plans for our lives. Always, always silent." "Which is why," Helen said, reaching behind a nearby table, "I wanted to give you something special today, something to help you move forward on a new and different path." She presented a glossy gift bag with a dramatic flourish, placing it in my lap with a triumphant smile. The room watched, holding a collective breath as I parted the tissue paper and withdrew the contents. It was a ceramic dog bowl, expensive, hand-painted, with the name Buddy written in an elaborate curling script. Helen's voice cut through the confused, awkward silence. "Since you can't give us a baby, I thought this might suit you better. Pets can be wonderful companions for childless couples, all the nurturing instinct with none of the disappointment." The entire room seemed to collectively inhale. Someone, I think it was Emily, muttered, "Jesus Christ," under their breath. Mark just stared at the floor, his shoulders hunched in shame, saying nothing, absolutely nothing. 5 years of pain, lies, and quiet manipulation crystallized in that single moment of perfect, horrifying clarity. Helen had finally, spectacularly, overplayed her hand. I traced the smooth rim of the dog bowl with one finger, then slowly raised my eyes to meet hers. The smile that spread across my face seemed to unnerve her. This was not the reaction she had been expecting. "Funny, Helen." I carefully set the dog bowl aside and reached for my glass of water. I brought something too, something that might just change how you see your precious son forever. The room went completely, utterly silent. Even the distant rhythmic ticking of Helen's grandfather clock in the hall seemed to pause. "What are you talking about?" Helen's voice had lost its saccharine edge. It was now sharp and brittle. I opened my purse with deliberate slowness, extracting the sealed manila envelope. "Did Mark happen to tell you about our visit to the fertility specialist?" Helen's gaze darted to her son, who had finally looked up, his face ashen. "He mentioned you were being difficult about accepting reality." "Reality," I repeated, savoring the word. "Let's talk about reality, shall we?" I broke the seal on the envelope, removing the papers inside with perfectly steady hands. The reality is that after 5 years of trying to conceive, I finally went and got myself thoroughly tested. And my results, Helen, were completely normal. Helen waved a dismissive hand. "Tests can be wrong." "They can be," I agreed pleasantly, which is why I also had Mark tested. The color drained from Helen's face. "You did what?" "Well, not with his knowledge, of course. A simple DNA sample he left behind while he was away in Denver. The results, though, were very conclusive." I extended the first paper toward Helen. "Your son has complete azoospermia. He's completely infertile, Helen. And according to the doctor, he has been since he was an adolescent. It's something you've known for, 20 years now?" A ripple of murmurs spread through the gathered guests. Mark had buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "This is absurd," Helen sputtered, refusing to take the paper. "You're making all of this up." "Am I? What about the prenatal vitamins in Mark's desk drawer? The ones with your note about me accepting reality so he could move on with someone who could give him children? Was that your plan all along? Humiliate me enough so that I'd leave, and Mark could start fresh with one of your nice little church girls." I stood up slowly, a current of pure power coursing through me. "Only there's one small problem with that plan." I withdrew the ultrasound image from the envelope, holding it up for everyone in the room to see. "I'm 8 weeks pregnant." The room erupted in a cacophony of gasps and confused exclamations. Helen's mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no sound came out. Mark stared at the ultrasound picture, comprehension dawning slowly, painfully across his features. But how? He finally managed to choke out. I met his gaze, my own steady and unwavering. Donor sperm, my egg, my body, my choice. Helen finally found her voice, a shrill shriek of outrage. "You went behind his back. You betrayed my son." The laugh that escaped me was raw, holding 5 years of compressed pain. "Betrayal? You want to talk about betrayal, Helen? After what the two of you did to me?" I turned to address the stunned, silent guests. For 5 years, I have been made to believe that my body was failing. For 5 years, I have endured this woman's thinly veiled insults about my worth as a wife and as a woman. All the while, she and her son knew the truth, that Mark couldn't father children, and they never told me before I married him. "Chloe," Mark cried, standing and reaching for me. "We can talk about this." "We're done talking." I stepped back, away from his outstretched hand. "I came here today to set the record straight before I leave. This baby deserves better than a family built on a foundation of lies. The chaos that erupted after my announcement was something I'll never forget." Helen actually lunged for the ultrasound image, knocking over a tray of tiny cucumber sandwiches in the process. "You had no right," she shrieked, her perfectly coiffed hair coming undone. "This is my son's life you're playing with." Mark's cousin, Emily, stepped between us. Back off, Aunt Helen. Haven't you done enough? The room instantly fractured into factions before my eyes. Helen's church friends huddled around her, murmuring about moral decay and the sanctity of marriage, while Mark's younger cousins and a few of our mutual friends moved almost protectively toward me. Is it true? One of Helen's friends confronted Mark directly. Did you know about your condition before you married her? Mark just stood there, paralyzed in the center of the room, tears streaming down his face. I never meant to hurt anyone, he whispered, the words sounding hollow and utterly insufficient. Emily gently touched my elbow. I've got my car just outside. Do you need a ride? Grateful for the escape route, I nodded. As we moved toward the door, Mark lunged forward, grabbing my wrist. Chloe, please don't leave like this. We can work it out. There's nothing to work out, I replied, my voice gentle but firm as I removed his hand from my arm. I'll be in touch about arranging to pick up my things. Helen's voice rose above the commotion, sharp and threatening. This isn't over. That baby. The front door closed on her words, and Emily led me to her sedan parked down the street. I always knew Aunt Helen was a piece of work, but this is a whole other level. She sighed, starting the engine. Where can I take you? My sister's place in Oakwood, I replied, the adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation finally beginning to ebb, leaving a profound exhaustion in its wake. Mia didn't ask a single question when I arrived on her doorstep with mascara-streaked cheeks. She simply pulled me into a fierce, protective hug and whispered, "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." That night, curled up on the futon in her guest room, I told her everything. The infertility diagnosis, the years of lies, the IVF decision, the baby shower showdown. She listened without a single interruption, her expression shifting from shock to outrage to a fierce, steely determination. "You're staying here as long as you need," she declared when I'd finished my story. And first thing Monday morning, we're calling my divorce attorney. The following days blurred together in a flurry of activity. Filing for legal separation, arranging for Mia's husband and our brothers to accompany me to the house to collect my belongings, and screening endless calls from Mark, who alternated between tearful apologies and desperate bargaining. "I'll go to therapy, I swear," he promised during one call I finally decided to answer. "I'll cut Mom off completely. We can raise this baby together." "The foundation is too broken, Mark," I replied, one hand resting protectively over the slight swell that was beginning to form beneath my navel. "I can't build a life on a mountain of lies. Then we'll build a new foundation," he pleaded. "Fresh start, new house, new rules, anything you want." A small, wounded part of me wanted to believe him, but then I remembered the dog bowl, his downcast eyes as his mother humiliated me, and the 5 long years of his silent complicity. "I'm filing for divorce," I said quietly. "I think it's best if we only communicate through our attorneys from now on." 2 weeks later, Helen appeared unannounced at my workplace. Her normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, her eyes red-rimmed. My coworkers, who had become fiercely protective after hearing an abbreviated version of what had happened, formed a human barrier around my desk. "It's okay," I told them, though my heart was hammering in my chest. 5 minutes. In the break room, she sat across from me, her hands trembling around a paper cup of water. For the first time since I'd known her, she seemed diminished, almost human. "I came to apologize," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "What I did, it was unforgivable." "Which part?" I couldn't help but ask. "Convincing your son to lie to me for our entire relationship? Planning to replace me with someone more suitable? Or publicly humiliating me with a dog bowl?" She flinched. "All of it. I was wrong." "Why the change of heart, Helen? Because your plan backfired? Because people at church are talking?" Her gaze dropped to the table. "Mark hasn't spoken to me in 2 weeks. He says he never will again unless I can make things right with you." A tear slipped down her cheek. "He's my only child, the only family I have left." Understanding dawned on me. This wasn't a genuine apology. This was damage control. Save it, Helen. I stood up, suddenly weary of all the drama, the endless manipulation. I accept your apology because holding on to this anger isn't healthy for me or for my baby. But we're done here. There is no relationship to salvage. As I walked away, she called after me, her voice desperate. The baby is still my grandchild. I turned back one last time. No, Helen. Biology isn't what makes a family. Trust, respect, and honesty. Those are the things that make a family. Something for you to think about if you ever hope to meet this child. Life gradually settled into a new, quieter rhythm as my pregnancy progressed. The divorce moved forward with surprising smoothness. Mark didn't contest anything, agreeing to all of my terms without argument. When I declined his offer of child support, explaining that this baby was my choice alone, he instead set up a college fund in the baby's name to be managed by an independent trustee. They were small gestures that came far too late to save what we once had, but perhaps they indicated he was finally beginning to grow beyond his mother's toxic influence. Mia's guest room served as my sanctuary for 3 months until I found a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a friendly neighborhood with good schools nearby. My friends rallied around me in ways I never could have expected, helping me move, accompanying me to Lamaze classes, and organizing a genuine baby shower, one that was filled with laughter and celebration rather than humiliation. Now, at 6 months along, my daughter, yes, a girl according to the latest ultrasound, kicks vigorously as I arrange stuffed animals on a shelf in her nursery. The room is coming together beautifully. The walls are painted a serene sage green instead of a traditional pink, with botanical prints framed above the white crib my colleagues gifted me. "What do you think of this here?" Emily asks, holding up a delicate dream catcher we found at an artisan market last weekend. After the shower incident, she had reached out, and we've developed an unexpected and wonderful friendship. She's even agreed to be my birthing partner. "It's perfect," I reply, smiling as she hangs it in the window where it can catch the morning light. My sister Mia enters with a tray of lemonade just as my friend May finishes assembling the changing table. I ease myself into the rocking chair, taking in the scene, these strong, incredible women who stood by me. This room prepared with so much love for my daughter, this new life taking shape both within me and all around me. "Have you settled on a name yet?" May asks, accepting a glass from Mia. I place both hands on my rounded belly, feeling my daughter respond with a gentle roll. "Aurora," I answer, the name feeling absolutely right the moment it leaves my lips. Her name is Aurora. The name isn't just for my daughter, but for what she represents. A new dawn. It's the end of years spent living someone else's lies and the beginning of my own, hard-won truth. The past 5 years tested me, and they broke me in ways I never imagined possible. But sitting here, surrounded by authentic love and unwavering support, I realize that all those broken pieces have been reassembled into something stronger, clearer, and more honest. This isn't the life I once planned for myself, but perhaps it's the one I was always meant to find. If this tale of sweet revenge kept you hooked, go ahead and hit that like button. Now, my favorite part was when Chloe calmly smiled and reached for her envelope after Helen presented the dog bowl. That moment when she said, "I brought something too, something that might change how you see your precious son forever." It gave me chills. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below, and don't miss more thrilling stories just like this one. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. End of story.